76.
Hello and welcome to this live stream, which is going out live. Normally do the podcast recorded, but I'm going to try this week because basically Alistair is not here. He's not in Seoul and he's not available to do this at the moment. So it is just me here to take you through. So this is sort of episode 26 of the Tennis Asia podcast. I'm going to say maybe it's sort of 25 and a half. But yeah, we've got basically the Miami Open, the Masters event, and the WTA 1000 event. That's just about to begin in Miami. And actually, less than an hour's time, we'll have the women's going on, and it'll be kicking off midnight here in Seoul. I think that's around 11 a.m. in Miami. But yeah, so basically what we're going to do is just going to go through the draws. And first of all, we're going to start with the women's because that is the one that's about to start very soon. The men's qualifying is still going, so the main draw will start tomorrow. But first of all, we will basically jump into the women's draw, and we're going to do that here. And I'm going to hopefully get some visuals up on the screen for you, so you should be able to see the women's singles draw. I'm going to share it there from Wikipedia. So basically you can see that on there on the screen. Let's see if we can get it up bigger for you. That is much better. So essentially that's the first section there. So obviously our focus here is Asian players. No Asian players in that section of the draw. However, we do see the number one seed Aryna Sabalenka. You would have to say that is a decent little section for her, and one that you should, that she should really get through, that you'd expect her to navigate well. Danielle Collins is there, the 14th seed, and that's potential meeting in the fourth round. However, I don't think she'll be too displeased with that particular draw. So if we move down the draw, then it starts to get more interesting from a Tennis Asia perspective. We've got 4 players from Asia in this section. Notably, we have Aoi Ito here of Japan, who's a relative newcomer to the WTA Tour. She is still only 20 years of age. She broke out onto the WTA Tour last year at the events in her home country of Japan. She got to a WTA semi-final, and this year she started off pretty well. She won a WTA 125, followed that up by unfortunately losing in the first qualifying round at the Australian Open. However, since then she's made some progress and qualified for some events, and here she has qualified now for her first Miami Open. And she beat Eva Lees, who of Germany, who, of course, was one of the lucky losers who went on to. She went all the way to the fourth round at the Australian Open, her best result as a lucky loser, and that was a good victory for Ito to come from behind to do that. She, of course, has gained a lot of fans for her unique and interesting style. Of course, she doesn't have she certainly doesn't have a big typical sort of power baseline game that we expect these days. But no, she has more craftiness to her game. She likes to mix it up with the spins, with the drop shots, with the moon balls even, and, mixing up with her backhand is pretty conventional, and she can use a bit of power on that side. She hasn't won yet at the WTA 1000 level. This is her third appearance in 1000 main draw. And I think, to be honest, she's got a decent first round draw there against Lauren Davis, an American player who is using her protected ranking. But I think this is actually perhaps a good chance for Ito to actually get that first win in a WTA 1000 event. And she will be playing today on a Butch on the Butch Buchholz court. And actually, yeah, I do expect her to be able to get through. And if she does get through that, then she will go through to face Zhang Qinwen. So that is a potential all-Asia class, a Japanese player on the up against Zhang. I mean, I think Zhang, that would be one that she would be expecting to be able to navigate. Yeah, so that is, one that she would definitely be hoping. Zhang, from her point of view, she actually, she hasn't had a great start to the year, but was able to get to the quarters in Indian Wells. I think probably important for her. She has her coach back with her. And yeah, that's obviously, it's good for her to be able to have that. And it's going to be interesting because obviously quite a contrast in styles if Zhang and Ito do play each other. It's I think, Ito maybe has a little bit of the ability to sort of bamboozle Zhang, but ultimately I would still expect Zhang. I think she, in these conditions in Miami, to be able to get through that one. And then from her point of view, then she'll have to probably face Putintseva. Putintseva will have to come through against Taylor Townsend or Ann Lee, both American players. But again, Zhang, yeah, her level was fairly promising in Indian Wells, and I think she can do well here. Now, then it will come down, if she does get through to the fourth round, potentially she'll be playing Elena Rybakina. Rybakina herself also, perhaps, given her standards of the past, has not had a great year so far. She hasn't reached the final so far. And actually, I think the last time they played Zhang and Rybakina, that was at the WTA finals. And Zhang actually did win that match. I think that was her first and only victory over Rybakina. Rybakina had, of course, taken some time out and had only recently, I think she just come back at that tournament. So it might be different this time around. It could be a good one, though, because I think both players with something to prove. And as we move down the draw, we also have the section here with Coco Gauff. I mean, Coco is another player that, she started so well and was disappointed somewhat after, the big expectations on her going into the Australian Open. Didn't live up to those expectations. And it's going to be interesting to see if she can perform this time around in Miami. And that little section there, potential clash with Kvitova, Petra Kvitova being given the wild card, and a potential clash between her or another slam winner in Sofia Kenin. So, yeah, but this is a section perhaps that you think she should be able to navigate. The other seed there, Maria Sakkari, that's one player that I would expect her to beat. Now, if we move on down, there we have Naomi Osaka. She gets Staro Dubtseva, the qualifier there to start off. But yeah, I mean, that is one that you'd expect her to be able to get through. I mean, in the last match, I should say the last tournament, though, for Osaka, that in Indian Wells, that, she, by her own admission, she felt that was the, maybe the worst she's ever played, and she lost in straight sets to Osorio 6-4, 6-4. Yeah, there were a lot of unforced errors coming off her racket. You would expect that she wouldn't replicate that this time round in this match, and I do think she will be able to get through this one and be able to find her level. The thing is with Naomi, of course, we tend to look at her, obviously a multiple slam winner, and obviously she's coming back. It's been about a year or so, right? So she's been back, and it's just, yeah, she's had shown though how good she can be at times. I mean, especially Australian Open, that victory over Mukova was a really nice victory comeback from her, an incredible level that she's shown. Obviously, last year in the slams, we saw that victory against, or sorry, almost victory against Swiatek, but it was a very good match. And yeah, obviously she got to the final in Auckland, and unfortunately the injury there, it meant she had to retire in the final, and that's obviously what meant she had to retire in that third round in the Australia in Melbourne. And yeah, she obviously does have still got the tools at her disposal. One of the finest ball strikers, if not the finest on the tour. And yeah, I do think she will get through that. And then she got an interesting pair of seeds there in Kasatkina and Samsonova. And it's really, I mean, I still think she has that ability in her to be able to go and navigate this section. She really shouldn't be able to. She shouldn't be fearing these players, but it really just comes down to, I think she's lacked that consistency that she's had, and that she would really need if she wants to build up her ranking and become one of these seeds. And of course, there's the physical issues that she's had as well. So not a too bad a draw there for her, but Jabeur and Paulini, when it gets to the fourth round, will be difficult. We can see Yuan Nue there drawn against Siniakova. Unfortunately for her, I think that's going to be a difficult one for her to get through. Yuan has slipped down the rankings here. You can see she there, it says that she has been as high as world number 36. I mean, I think Yuan Nue has now slipped down to around 90 in the rankings. So yeah, difficult for her. She's going to have to try and maybe, got to come in and play at a level that she hasn't really been showing recently. So yeah, going to be very difficult. However, we move down into the bottom half, and it gets pretty interesting here because we have the wild card entrant here. We have Sayaka Ishii of Japan. She is only 19 years of age. She is someone that's, seems to have some potential, and she's been given the wild card here into the main draw, and she's been drawn against Emma Raducanu. Ishii herself, she actually broke through, and she came through qualifying to reach the WTA 500 quarterfinal in Tokyo last year in her home country. So doing well there. And actually, she beat Clara Tauson in the qualification, and then Zeynep Sonmez, and she went to the quarterfinals. Unfortunately, she had to withdraw before she actually played that quarterfinal. But obviously, an indication of, she's got a fair bit of power as well in her game, and she's got an ability there. And this year, she's done okay. I mean, she's still very young. I mean, she's just played a 75 there and got to ITF 75 and got to the semis. So not too bad, and she's in decent form. So she perhaps can give Raducanu, obviously, I wouldn't say Raducanu's been in particularly hot form of late, so perhaps she can make things difficult for Raducanu. Raducanu, of course, actually had some trouble with another Japanese player in Indian Wells, Moyuka Ichijima. That wasn't one that was completely that surprising to me in terms of Ichijima being able to give Raducanu a match, because Ichijima had been playing it pretty good for her level recently, and she's been sort of finding her level at the WTA Tour. And actually, Uchijima went on to give Coco Gauff a very tough match and almost went all the way. I mean, it went to a third set tiebreak, Goff and Uchijima. So, yeah, for Raducanu though, yeah, she's got to be on it, I think. And Ishii, it's going to be interesting to see how she does against a player like Raducanu. And we've got also in that section Wang Jinyu, who, yeah, has also been pretty okay of late. I mean, she plays Kutermatova to start off, and that's perhaps one that she can get through. But I think Mira Andreeva uh, is really not ideal. It's really not ideal. So, yeah. So, yeah. Obviously, Andreeva just coming off a massive victory there in Indian Wells, and yeah, getting the first round bye here, of course, and you would expect her to be able to get through this little section, perhaps playing Emma Navarro in the fourth round, but who knows? I mean, I don't think she's going to have anyone to fear at the moment, Andreeva. And okay, moving down to section 6, we have, of course, the player that I just mentioned, Mayuka Ichijima. It's getting a decent first round draw there, I think, against Susan Lamons. And going through, if she does get through, it's going to be an interesting battle against Anna Kalinskaya. Yeah, that's going to be, I think, an interesting baseline battle. And Uchijima, I think, she has some good tools at her disposal, and obviously beating Raducanu and then pushing Coco Gauff all the way, her confidence is going to be high. So it's going to be interesting to see if she can actually maybe get a victory against a player like Kalinskaya. Then it'll get very tough in the third round, though, if she does get through, because Jessica Pegula awaits. And that's a little interesting section there. Tom Yanovich there getting a wild card, potential trouble there for Pegula. But I think Kim Burrell there as well, also qualifying. She is a player that has been doing very well of late and has sort of been stepping up into these WTA Tour events and doing pretty well. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see if she can do anything. Yeah, a little interesting section there. I'm not sure who's going to be able to come out of that one. But moving down, we're in section 7. We've got Alexandra Ayala of the Philippines, who has been given a wild card again. She, yeah, I mean, she gets these wild cards here, I think, due to being, yeah. So, I mean, it's, you know, it's questionable whether she really deserves it at the moment. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's wild cards are often like this, but I mean, volley nets is who she starts off against, and I'm not particularly hot on Ayala's chances to be able to get through that, because if she does get through, then she'll have to play Ostapenko. And yeah, of course, Ostapenko, if she's on her day, it's going to be very tough for Ayala. Nonetheless, I mean, I would say that Ayala has been, if not setting the world alight, you know, she's been slowly progressing. And I think that progress has been steady, and you know, she's got a good attitude. I think she has a determined player, and I think perhaps, you know, this is maybe a chance for her to show you know, what she can do. Clara Towson there is in that section there, along with Paula Badoza. Yeah, another interesting section there with Madison Keys as well. So be interesting. It's hard to say who's going to come out of this section, I think. And then moving down, we don't have any more Asian players here in this section. Of course, Iga Swiatek there is one to, I think she's going to be pretty happy with that section. And of course, though, potentially Karolina Mukova, though, in the fourth round, who will definitely be, you know, a force to be reckoned with. But let's see. If we move up, who do we think here? I mean, who's going to be able to win the title? I mean, It's going to be interesting. I think in terms of Asian players, I mean, you can't really make too many bold predictions. I think obviously Zheng, she is the one that Zhang is the one that she probably has the best opportunity to be able to actually win the event. But given the way other players are playing at the moment, and her form, she's going to have to find an extra level for sure. And although she could probably get through this section, it's whether she can get through Rybakina. And if she does do that, I mean, it's potentially Sabalenka. Assuming Sabalenka is going to play. I don't know if someone is asking there if Trey Arena won't play. I've not heard that. I'm not entirely sure about that. So, however, yeah, I think it's Zhang. She's got to be able to try and find that form that she played. She was playing so well in the latter half of last year, and perhaps now with a new coach back, she can actually do that. And in terms of who's actually going to win the event, I mean, Andreeva draw's not too bad here, right? I mean, Anisimova, Noskova, Navarro, the players there. You'd have to say Mir Andreeva perhaps can go on another little run here. Now, so let's move on though to the men's, and I actually need to switch it over. So men's draw, as I said, it's not actually we're not actually at the main draw stage. That will start tomorrow, but we will move on to get the men's draws up. Okay, so we got this here. I think first of all we'll just have a little look at the qualifiers, because as I said, that's still going on, and those matches will be coming on soon. We do have an Asian qualifier in the qualifying, final qualifying round here. Shintaro Mochizuki, who is, of course, a former junior Wimbledon champion. Another guy, I mean, he's still fairly young, right? So Shintaro, still only 21 years of age. A guy that, obviously he's not the biggest player in the world, right? I mean, it's 175 centimeters, 5'9". But a player that's been slowly, steadily improving. And, he's done pretty well this year, won a challenger title. And he also finished runner-up, another challenger in February. So, yeah, and he's obviously come through here against Yannick Hanfmann in straight sets against to play the second seed Francisco Comsanya, and but I do think that is potentially one that he can navigate, and he'll be feeling confident. I think going into that. So yeah, Shintaro, if he does manage to get through, I mean that still will be great for him. He's not had too many opportunities at this level. Moving down, you can see Yasutaka Uchiyama actually losing out in 3 there, and then Yosuke Watanuki, I mean, he had a great run in Indian Wells, really great run. And unfortunately for him, he's losing out in this first round of the qualifier. Hadi Habib as well. Yeah, he is losing out there in the first round. Of course, he had a great Australian Open this year. Mikhail Kukushkin also losing. But we've got Rei Sakamoto. He's been given a wild card into this qualifying competition, and he won the first round match there against Kamil Majchak. So really good victory for him. Kamil's a solid player, and yeah, winning that in 3. And then he has to play James Duckworth in the final qualifying match there. Duckworth, of course, very experienced player, but one that I wouldn't say has been, for his standards, he's not been doing too well recently. So perhaps Sakamoto, obviously he's going to be, he won't be feeling too much pressure. He's still just a young player at Ray. A lot of potential, I think, and it'll be interesting to see if he can get through that one, Rei Sakamoto, because obviously still so young. It'd be great to see if he can actually get some experience at this level, and who knows who we'll draw in against. And actually, we've also got Alexander Shevchenko there, who could get through that. I mean, I would imagine I would favour him to get through that one after coming through against Lucas Klein in straight sets. And then we've got Jason Sheng. Yeah, surprisingly, Darwin Blanche getting the victory over Taro Daniel from a set down as well, and coming through with a bagel. Of course, Darwin Blanche, only 17 years of age. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think, though, for Sheng, perhaps he will be able to get through that one. And let's see, though, if we move up to the draw, to the main draw, where could these qualifiers go? And I mean, there's one of the spots that they could go. That's Benjamin Bonzi. Wouldn't be too bad for them. But then having to face the number one seed, Alex Zverev, wouldn't be ideal, of course, though. Zverev maybe disappointing a bit since that reaching that Australian Open final. Yeah, interesting section here because Mapisha Perikar, Arthur Fils, and Francis Tiafoe. Of course, I think, these two French players on the up. So kind of tricky players to face early on. Be interested to see if Zverev can actually find the form, that he's obviously looking for. He wants to make ground on Sinner in the rankings while Sinner's out. Now, looking to section 2, we have the return of Wu Yibing, a player that's unfortunately struggled with physical issues that have kept him out for extended periods. I mean, we know how much talent this guy Wu has. Incredible ball striking ability, an incredible aggressive baseline game, excellent power, and so good that even Alcaraz was shocked with how he was getting dominated by Wu. I think that was back in Shanghai. Of course, Alcaraz still ended up winning that match, but Alcaraz, admitted that he wasn't used to being dominated and controlled as he was for parts of that match, and it was really impressive. And obviously, Wu has the great potential in him. It's just the physical issues that have been holding him back. Him having to play though against Arnaldi as the first match back. It's a very solid player, and it's really not ideal. So I think that's going to be a tricky one. Obviously, Arnaldi more or less, at the peak for him so far in his career. I mean, he was up at 30 just last year. Now dropped down a little bit, but he's had some pretty good results over the last year or so. I mean, he reached the semi-finals in Canada, the Masters event. So, yeah, I mean, it's for a first match for Wu when you've not played for a long time. It's going to be difficult. If you can keep that competitive, though, that will hopefully bode well for his return, and hopefully he can stay fit. So yeah, definitely one that's going to be interesting just to see where Wu is actually at with his game at the moment. And then yeah, it's just a little interesting section. Obviously, Rune coming off the runner-up, finishing runner-up to Jack Draper in Indian Wells. Thomas Makac there, a guy who's playing a really exciting brand of tennis, attacking tennis. And yeah, in these conditions, perhaps it's going to suit him. So interesting. And then you've got Jensen Brooksby, who, is just coming back after his time out. From missing the doping test. He got a ban for a while, and then he had some injuries. But yeah, he's been back, and he's actually had some good performances, good results so far. So be interesting to see if perhaps he can go on a little run here. Past opens against Safiullin, then perhaps takes on Popper. And of course, Jack Draper, just fresh from winning Indian Wells, he gets not a particularly kind first match because he potentially Bautista Agut or Jakub Menchik, who is another young player on the rise. Be interesting to see who comes out of that section. Of course, Jack Draper and Rune could potentially meet again in the fourth round. In section 3, we've got Coleman Wong here, getting the wild card directly into the main draw, which is really nice for him. Opens against Daniel Altmaier. Wong hasn't had a particularly excellent, start. I mean, it's not unusual, really. I mean, for Wong, he's a product of the Rafa Nadal Academy, and he started when he came onto the professional circuit. When he broke through into challengers, he was winning a lot of matches. Got to, I think he's been in 4 challenger finals, but then he lost all of them. And then after that, had some results. He started to tail off towards the end of 2024, and that consistency wasn't there. And yeah, he hasn't had a great start to this year. Yeah, so Coleman is going to be difficult for him to in this. It's hard to know what to make. I mean, he played that Cap Cana Challenger, the 175 event, and he actually beat Billy Harris, which is a pretty good result for Wong of late. He came through that 1 and 3, but then lost to Kovacevic in 2. So starting against Daniel Altmaier, it's going to be a tricky one. If you can, I think with Wong, he lacks maybe a little bit of confidence at the moment, and I just, there was a freedom that he was playing with earlier on that I think he seems to lose. It will be nice if he can sort of find that again. Yeah, I don't know if he needs to maybe change up his tactics a little bit, but yeah, that can just take a bit of time to come with experience. He's still only 20. He will turn 21 in June. But yeah, let's see how he does. He's fortunate to be getting the wild card. If he does get through, he'll potentially play Ben Shelton, which of course in Miami I think will be very difficult. And I think this is a tournament where he can certainly go on and go far. Ben Shelton. Now, if we move down, we've got another Asian player there, Bu Yunchalkete, of course, of China, of Mongolian heritage as well, which gives him his unique name. Bu Yunchalkete, otherwise simply known as Bu. He's drawn against Cam Norrie, and potentially I could see that one having a lot of long rallies. Of course, Cam Norrie is a player, a bit of a grinder, let's be honest. And I think, Bu as well, he's someone that can more than hold himself in the rallies. And, but when he's feeling good, he's got a pretty potent forehand as well, Bu. And yeah, he's got good athleticism. I think not maybe the worst time to face Norrie. I think he's slipped down the rankings a bit, and he's struggled a little bit in terms of consistent building up wins. So be nice and perhaps a good opportunity for Bu to get a result here. Bu as well, someone that's sort of finding his feet as well at the ATP level after such good results in his home country, where he got to the semi-finals back to back as well. First in Hangzhou and then in Beijing, where he beat Rublev on that way. Yeah, also was it Rublev and Musetti. So yeah, since then, yeah, he's had a few good results here and there, but struggling. And when I saw him in Hong Kong, he lost in 3, but he was up, I think, in that final set, up a break, and ended up losing a tie break. And he had opportunities to win. He probably really should have won that match. And yeah, I think it's just at this level, you've got to take your chances much. You've got to be more ruthless. And yeah, I think he has been good, and he's just got to try and see if he can bring that. And maybe he needs a little bit of a confidence boost as well. But difficult though, because if he does get through, Alex de Minaur is there, and that's another player who will definitely make you work for it. Of course, we've got João Fonseca and Leonard Tien there. So that's really interesting. I mean, I would think probably Fonseca is favored there. Tien, though, I mean, he's been so impressive. I mean, the results obviously he's had against Medvedev and beating Zverev. He's got something. He's got an X factor there. He's got he's smart with how he plays, but he waits for his moments to strike. Against Fonseca, though, he's such a strong player, plays aggressively, and when he's on it, it's going to be very difficult for a player like Tien to deal with. But if they do go through Ugo Umber awaits, and that's not an easy one. I think Fonseca lost to Umber in the Davis Cup. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But Nishikori drawn against Nishioka. They've actually only played once before in their careers, surprisingly. But perhaps you would expect, I mean, given how Nishikori finally, since last year has been playing consistently after such bad luck with injuries. He has been doing pretty well. Obviously, he's now 35. He doesn't quite have the stamina. He doesn't quite have the strength, to of the past, perhaps. But I mean, he lost out. He got to the Phoenix Challenger semi-final, only lost out to João Fonseca. Against Nishioka, of course, a completely different kind of style of player. I do think Nishikori is playing well enough that he can get through that. Then, of course, if he does get through, it's going to be Berrettini. And Berrettini, yeah, I mean, again, I think Nishikori is going to be difficult. I mean, I do think that's one that he can certainly, I think for him, that maybe not too bad for him in terms of matchup. But yeah, it's for him, it's really, if he can get through that, it's going to be great. If he does, then he might have to play Rublev, potentially Borges, though Borges has been playing well. So, I mean, the problem with Nishikori, I think, is just does he have the stamina to get through all these matches especially against bigger players like that? So, yeah, no doubt though, in tennis wise, he can at times be exceptionally, exceptional, and yeah, just it'd be nice to be able to see him play and maybe get a couple wins against some of these bigger players. So we moved down. I mean, we don't have many Asian players here. So Medvedev, Lehechka, Korda, and Tsitsipas in that section. Musetti, Auger-Aliassime, Mickelson, and Novak Djokovic. Of course, Djokovic, really just been struggling to perform, and Alex Mickelson, their potential opponent for him, but you'd have to say it's not been too bad for him. Medvedev, though, young up and coming player, potentially tricky for Djokovic, a player from his home country. Mickelson as well, I think pushed Djokovic to 2 tiebreaks in their match. So not, not ideal for Djokovic, but this is, if he's going to start winning again, these are still players that he really should be beating. So let's see how he does. I mean, Alexander Bublik of Kazakhstan drawn against Sebastian Baez. Bublik, also just getting to the Phoenix Challenger final, finishing runner-up to João Fonseca, but comes in good form. So perhaps he can carry that into this event. You never quite know what you're going to get with Bublik. At times he can be unplayable. Other times it's, the decision making is not the best always. But I mean, let's see how he does. I mean, but if he does get through again, plays Tommy Paul playing here, I think he'll be so up for it. It's certainly a player that we expected to do well, and given the seeds in his section, I would say that it's probably one that he can get through. But let's wait and see. And last section, no Asian players, but we got Nick Kyrgios there using his PR. Luckily for him, perhaps getting a qualifier, or perhaps not. When you never know, because there's some good players in that qualifying draw. But for him, he feels like any win at this stage is a bonus for him, given what we've seen so far from him. I think not too bad there for Alcaraz. He's maybe never ideal playing a home player but Nakashima is certainly not the worst draw for him. Potentially a match for Alcaraz against Dimitrov in the 4th round. So yeah, that could be interesting. Dimitrov still holding up, you know. I mean, how old is he now, Dimitrov? 33. Yeah, still playing at, you know, high level. You have to say so. Yeah, interesting draw there. And I suppose if I'm going to pick out anyone on the men's side who I'm most interested in from a Tennis Asia perspective, I mean, I suppose I would have to say, just to see how he is at the moment, Wu Bing. I mean, we know how well he can play, but as I said, it's not exactly the ideal draw for him to come back to in terms of, you know, unseeded players. I think, you know, you may be hoping for one slightly easier than that, but nonetheless. And then, of course, yeah, it can be interesting to see if Boo can maybe get a win under his belt, but and Nishikori as well. I mean, obviously, we've got the Tennis Asia battle here between Nishikori and Nishioka, not something we've seen too much. And it'll be interesting to see as well if perhaps Rei Sakamoto, who, you know, still 18, he's got so much potential. Could he perhaps get through? You know, this would be such good experience for him. These are some of the matches that he could be playing as a qualifier if he does get through, potentially against Spizziri or Mattia Bellucci. He wouldn't probably mind getting drawn there. But yeah, all these spots, I mean, against another qualifier, and then potentially, you know, maybe for him to get through and play a guy like Auger Aliassime, it's great experience, isn't it? And yeah, so not too much there on the men's side, but overall, yeah, it's probably the women's draw I'm particularly excited about watching. I mean, you know, especially Ayo Ito. It'd be nice to be able to see her more on this at this level, and you know, she's got such an unorthodox style, and it makes things interesting to be able to see that, and then potentially playing against Zhang Qinwen. So that's going to be interesting. Yeah, so that's the men's draw there, and just going to take that off for now. Yeah, I think other than that, obviously we've just gone through the WTA and the ATP draws. I mean, basically, other news that's come on in the last week, we have in terms of Asian players. I know that Sarah Saito won a 50 title. She's another young 18-year-old from Japan. We also have Chung Hyun, who, of course, famously got to the semi-finals of the 2018 Australian Open. He managed to get through to the final of an M25 ITF event. He's been playing on the ITF tour. He got through to the final by beating two good Chinese players in Shui and Yan Bai. But yeah, he ended up losing the final to Crawford, who now represents Britain, previously of America. But nonetheless, he's winning a lot of matches in that. So he started off outside the top 1,000 in January. I think he was about 1,100 actually. Now he should be, when the ITF points take a while to update, but he should be inside the top 600, about 500 and something in the rankings. So he'll continue playing on the ITF, and I think, yeah, he's probably too good for the ITF level, and he seems to be importantly staying fit. So it'll be interesting to see if Chung can get up to the challenger level. He will probably get two wild cards into two Korean challenger events next month, which will be in Busan and then Gwangju. Busan's a 125 event. So if he could actually, build up form and get some wins there, it's a big build up in points that will help him, just to be able to get into the challengers, which is where I think he should at least be, given what I've seen of his level at the moment. So it's been good for him to step down to the ITF and build up that confidence, that, and at least show that, he's physically okay, but tennis wise, I think he's got that ability. The big thing for him is just the serve at the moment is sometimes just not reliable enough. I mean, he's lucky for him that he has a good return game and excellent defense. Even now he's still so good in that. He's so quick actually. But yeah, still things to work on, and yeah, just be good to be able to. I mean, he obviously can maybe take some inspiration from Nishikori, who's obviously had great trouble with injuries, but then he's come back to a level now which I think he should be pretty pleased with, given where he was. Nishikori is back into the 60s, near the top 60, with his ranking. So yeah, he's got to be feeling pretty pleased, and perhaps he can get to the top 50, and that was a goal that he set, or he was thinking about at the start of this year in Hong Kong, Nishikori, and he's almost got it already here, as we are only in March. So things can change pretty quickly, and yeah, for Chung, it'll be just nice. I mean, after he had a really terrible time, really. I mean, people wondered whether he's just retired, but he's back, and yeah, and yeah, I'll be looking forward as well just to the series of challenger events when they happen after Miami, at some point. Well, probably starting from middle of April. Obviously, it's going to be clay season, so it'll be clay in Europe. But while that happens, you do get a series of hardcore events, challengers, ATP challengers in Asia. So I'll be here in Korea, which I'll hopefully be attending, and then possibly, I'm not sure if I'll be going elsewhere, but there will be events in China as well. So yeah, that's something to look forward to. But other than that, yeah, we're just going to be looking forward to Miami, which is about to start in just a few minutes. That will be the women's draw, and then the men's, the final qualifying matches. So first up, actually, we'll be having Yuan Wei and against Siniakova on court 7. And then we also have on the men's side, Alexander Shevchenko's playing Tarante in court 6. So yeah, after that we'll know the men's draw fully, because the qualifiers will be done, and yeah, then the main draw will begin for the men on Wednesday, although it'll be Thursday morning here in Seoul. But yeah, anyway, thanks for tuning in, and I'll go now, and I'll hopefully catch you later. Okay, thank you.